is spin it and then readjust and pull the trigger. And then if there's another target over here, they could just move over here, spin it, bracket it, adjust, and then pull the trigger.
Welcome back to Gunstruck. We're glad that you could join us today. I've got with me Scott Kiefner, who you are going to thank me for in a minute because he knows a whole lot more about this than I do. We're taking a look at the Hi-Lux M1000 scope, and I tell you what, you see the scopes in the store, Scott, and someone like me, well, they all look the same. There's little knobs here and there, and I just get plain old confused, and I don't really know what the difference is. But this Hi-Lux, they really have something different, don't they?
Yes, they do. This scope offers everything that you would have in a regular scope that you can buy off the shelf, but one of the added features that the Hi-Lux has that the others don't is this bullet computer, is what they call it. This dual ring here is a cam system that levers the base and gives you your drops out to 1,000 yards, hence the name, the M1000. So it can take any .308 rifle or any high-power rifle, and it can give you automatic drops after you zero your rifle at your 200-yard distance or 100-yard distance, and you can automatically go out to 1,000 yards with this without having to do any complicated trajectory or ballistics transitions, or without having to have any dedicated scope caps for it.
That sounds like something that I'd want.
Absolutely.
A lot less analysis, right? It's all built in. It does a lot of the thinking for you.
Yes, it does, and it makes it very simple. This scope is geared towards hunters, but so it has bracketing tick marks inside the scope that you can take, and they're generated to be 18 inches, which is the general thoracic cavity or rib cage of a deer.
Right.
So you can basically put these two lines on the back of a deer and on the bottom of their chest, and once you dial it and it matches, you can then put the crosshairs on the heart and take your shot for hunters.
Now, we were out at the range, and we took this. We didn't really know anything about it, just neophytes. Opened it right out of the box, put it on the rifle, and in just a few minutes, we had it set up, and you were out there hitting the target, right?
Yes, sir. We had that. We took it out of the box. We're reading up on our canning system, and once we figured that out, we zeroed it at 100 yards, and then from there on out, we didn't have to do anything else with the turrets themselves. Everything was done off the cam, and we were getting sub-MOA hits at 400 yards.
That's pretty good.
Straight out of the box.
Well, I was telling you that Scott knows a little bit more about this than I do. That's actually quite an exaggeration. You know a lot more about it. Tell us about your background.
My background is I'm a retired law enforcement officer, retired from the Federal Air Marshal Service, and during my time in military and the law enforcement community, I've had the opportunity to attend Marine Sniper School, Army MP Sniper School, FBI Marksman Observer School, and Department of Justice U.S. Marshal Marksman Observer School as well.
So you've got a lot of training, you could use about any scope. You can make anything work with your kind of training. But for someone like me that just wants to, the weekend hunter, tell us a little bit more about this cam system. You were saying it has like a variable focus.
Yes. So one of the things that you can do on here is the cam is set for you to go from one distance to another very easily just by flipping this to whatever you have, flipping this to the designated yardage that you want to shoot. And
so
these
that
are all
shows you
labeled right here.
Your yardage is right on the scope.
Yes, sir. So then once you get to your yardage where you want to see it, so right now I'm on 300, so this would be on 3 power. If I want to go to 10 power, I just pull this ring back a little bit, dial it the rest of the way down. Now I'm at full 10 power. And full 10 power is more than sufficient to take you out to 1,000 yards.
Okay, so you're saying that you dial in the length right here, that gets you set up, and then if you want to zoom in, you pop that back, and then you can visually get a better look at it.
Then you can improve the magnification, see it clearer on your target.
Well, these guys know what they're doing. Now, I was shocked when we had this. This fits on any Picatinny rail, and they just want you to thumb tight it.
Yes. So there's locking screws embedded into the mount themselves, and the locking screws will prevent it from coming loose, and it's rated up to a 50 caliber rifle, 50 BMG. So it can take quite a bit of abuse. And then this scope, it's a hefty, it's a robust scope, and it's steel, and so it can take quite a bit of abuse without breaking or coming loose. But that's part of the thing that I like about this, in the fact that most of your rifles that have bullet drops, they're all incorporated into your camming mechanism on top here. So when you take your caps off, you have these different numbers. Most of them will have special caps that you buy that you have to purchase at an additional cost. Then you can put these on and you can cam out to whatever range, but they're quite sensitive. So if they get hit, if they take too much recoil, they can come out of adjustment, and then your drops don't always go back to what they are. Whereas the drops in this are incorporated into this base. So this big piece of steel can handle much more recoil than the little bitty.
I get it.
Filaments in here. So as you turn this knob to go to a higher range, this works as a hinge, and it basically pushes the back of the scope up. This cam will push the back of the scope up to give you the drops that you need to shoot out to the further ranges.
Well, Hi-Lux has built a better mousetrap then, haven't
Yes.
they?
And they built a better mousetrap, but they built it in the 60s. Huh. So this design has been around since the 60s. This was one of the first designs specifically for military sniping applications in the Vietnam War, and they wanted to keep this as simple as possible. So with the 18-inch box that we have for ranging that we talked about,
yeah,
the 18-inch box for ranging is the typical size of an adult male from shoulder to shoulder, and which is the reason they go with that application now. For this being made for the civilian market for hunting, so we've just taken the 18 inches wide and we're converting it to deer, or you can go to 36 inches wide for coyote or whatever it is that you're hunting, and you can go in those increments, and you can use this just as easily for that as they used it for the military when they designed it. So one of the things that I wanted to demonstrate here is some of the techniques that was used by the military when this first was introduced back during the Vietnam era. The soldiers very quickly learned how to use this type of scope and how to employ it and engage as many targets as fast as they could. And part of the reason they wanted to do that is because they were engaging enemy threats. But when you're in that position, the last thing you want to do is take your eyes off of the threat or the enemy, or in a competition shooting situation, you want to keep your eyes on the target and be able to get to them as quickly as possible. So one of the things that they developed, and part of the technique that they did, is this day and age we're used to using a sandbag or something behind our shoulders here to steady our scope. But what they did is they just rested this right in their hand here, and then they brought their hand up and they kept their hand on the scope in this, oriented just like this. So what that allowed them to do is that allowed them to turn these knobs to manipulate them without having to come off the gun. So they could stay on the gun. They'd sit there just like this. They would take this range ring and they would just spin it, and they would bracket until the two lines matched up, and you had one hash mark on this side of the shoulder and one hash mark on this side of the shoulder, and they knew that that target was ranged properly. So all they had to do is spin it and then readjust and pull the trigger. And then if there's another target over here, they could just move over here, spin it, bracket it, adjust, and then pull the trigger. So you can successfully engage multiple targets very quickly. The way that ties into what we can do with this technology today is, in our competition shooting world, all of our targets, our IPSC targets and our IDPA targets, and a lot of our other shooting targets that we use, whether steel or paper, are all generally based on 18 inches wide. So you can use this same technique to engage multiple targets at multiple ranges very quickly and very effectively, and you never even have to come off of the gun. Using this bracketing system in this cam, you don't even have to know the distance to the target. So you can just get on target, zoom it in until it matches, then put the crosshairs on and pull the trigger, and then I can go to the next target, zoom it in until it matches, put the crosshairs on the target and pull the trigger, and I would have successfully engaged two targets without knowing their actual distance from my position.
So Scott, the Hi-Lux came up with this in the 60s and built something better for the snipers, but now the civilian use gets the benefit, and of course they've tweaked it a little bit here for the 21st century, right?
Absolutely. Better materials, better manufacturing, laser etched reticles, bomb-proof construction. This thing can take a Leica. So.
And that's unusual for something that's basically a consumer grade. You know, this is not, you wouldn't really call it a consumer grade, it's way above consumer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the scope technology today is far superior than what it was just a few years ago.
Now, is there some electronics voodoo in this? Do you have to put a battery? I think you got to put some power into this, right?
What that does is that we start off at 0 here, and this allows you to go to illuminate your reticle. It runs off a typical 2032 battery, and you can start off in the center, and you can either turn it down for night vision if you're hunting with night vision.
Night vision's built in too.
Oh no, you have to have a separate monocular. But what happens if you turn a illuminated reticle on and you're looking through a scope with night vision, it washes out your scope and you can't see your target. And
I get you.
So what it does is it has automatic settings that are built that are lower than what the human eye can register and properly use for this scope, so that it doesn't wash out your night vision. And the main reason for night vision for civilian market is for predator hunting. Coyotes you hunt at night. Certain things that you do hunt at night. Hogs, things like that. So the night vision on hunting scopes and equipment is becoming much more common in the hunting sector.
Man, this is crazy. I just can't believe it. You know, you see so many scopes out there. You go into, you know, the big box stores and even gun stores. You don't know what to look at. And here we've got with Hi-Lux a tradition that dates back to the 60s, where they built really a better scope for the military use. They've updated it here for the 21st century. And you say this thing is really built like a tank. It really feels solid. This is the type of equipment that you could buy and you could use for years. Folks, you can learn more. Go back to gunstuff.tv and you can learn more about the Hi-Lux M1000. Thanks for being on our show today, Scott, and thank you for watching Gun Stuff TV.